All right. We are moving on to the last talk of the day where we are going to make our way to sunny, at least I hope, Barcelona, to talk with Val Pietri, who is the co-founder and managing director of Nest City Lab, an urban lab for sustainability. Hello, Val. Do you hear me? Okay, I see you, but I think you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, that's better. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, great. What about you? It seems amazing, right? Super interesting, all the people you're interviewing right now.
Yeah, I've been. I think it's what we said at the beginning of the event was that the reason why we decided to put that event together was because we see sustainability becoming more and more of a topic for co-working operators, but somehow the how do I start is always very difficult because it's a little bit overwhelming. It covers so many areas that I think very often people are just like, okay, I understand I need to do it, but it just feels a lot and I don't know how to start. So I think today's event and having the perspective from different brands and different experiences, at least I hope for the viewers to be something where they can be like, oh yeah, I could start like that, or I can start implementing this or that, or yeah, we just want to make people to push people, into the if you want to do it, just do it. And those are inspirations you can get from others. And I'm really happy to have you today because I think, and we've seen it. I mean, we've said it often, and we give the example of your space pretty much everywhere we go. But I think definitely out of all the co-working spaces we had the chance to visit around the world, you've definitely been the one that has pushed the furthest and the most when it comes to sustainability as a whole. So I'm really happy to actually wrap up the event with you to have your experience. But for people who don't know you yet, can I ask you to introduce yourself? So who you are and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm Val, one of the co-founder of the project Apocapoc BCN, which is in Barcelona. So we started the journey in 2012, opening our first eco-friendly co-working in 2013. And after a few years, we decided to upscale in the sense of testing everything on a beta level, all the project that we had, and to upscale to see how it would work with a bigger community. So we went from a community of like 80 members to a community of like 150 community members. And we also did a big jump in terms of repositioning ourselves in terms of who we are. So we started as a co-working in 2013 because we saw it as an opportunity for us. That was like a strategic move to have people coming into one space because they need it. We all need to work, and to have a community that could be, a community of influence in terms of sustainability. So that was the other way around. The point was not the co-working. The point was to be together, to be able to work on the different aspects of sustainability. And then with the new project, we don't even identify ourselves to a co-working anymore. We call ourselves like an urban lab for sustainability, because this is really the important aspect and the core aspect of what we're doing on a daily basis. So it's just a shared space with a mission, and the definition of the space would be like an urban lab for sustainability.
And before we dive into your sustainability journey, let me just go a little bit backwards and ask you, how did you end up opening a co-working space in the first place?
Right. So like really, we were, expats coming to Barcelona, and we had that idea of generating a space that we could share it with many people when we were in Paris, but that was not possible on the financial aspects. And when we arrived in Barcelona, we saw that everything was actually gathered to make that project possible, and we were really excited by generating a creative community where we could come up with innovation and be in touch with people that had an open mind. And we saw that Barcelona was just the perfect space to do that. It's a harbor, it's a very international community by itself, and with a lot of people coming in and coming out. So we saw that the ground was just perfect to actually start that project that we thought of in Paris. And so we looked for places, And we had our position was clear that we didn't want to depend on the variation of the market in terms of rentals. So we looked for a place to buy to make it very stable and not to have to get variation in terms of the membership and everything, because we would be in control of the real estate aspect of the project. And so we looked for quite a while, and then we found the perfect place, which was in the Born. So there was like Apocapoc, Basin, Born. And it's the old city of Barcelona for the people that are not familiar with Barcelona. And our point was just to restore the vitality of that street and of an old, industrial building that used to make cereals, and just to be able to do something with it because it was empty, and to do something that would impact not only for the user of the space but also for the full neighborhood. And that's how we started to generate all the micro projects that now we have on a larger scale in the Nest City Lab, in the second project.
And when did sustainability become a part of your journey?
Well, yeah, I would say like about 25 years or 30 years ago, or maybe all my life, I
Okay.
would say. Yeah.
Okay.
But that was really clear for us. We are the team, the core team, are friends and family. So with my partner, which is also my business partner, we have a family, and that was really clear for us that if we wanted to impact, we had to impact physically on the territory where we were living, and that everything that we were practicing at home needed to have a venue where we could actually share our practices, but also be able to just be in touch with other people that had those practices, to be able to learn from each other and grow together. So sustainability has always been part. So like the first project actually was like we renovated the building with ecological practices, which was really new at the time in Barcelona. And we implemented all the flows and all the way of behaving with the building in a sustainable way as well, by having a kitchen garden, preparing our meals on site only from organic and local food and seasonal food, by making sure that the building was very efficient in all the aspects, and that the practice that we had inside the building were, towards a positive impact, not a negative one.
So is it that the first thing you started with when it comes to sustainability when you moved into or when you were with the Apocapoc?
Um, no, like I used to be like I used to be, I'm still kind of, but like a documentary director in our production company that we had in common with the same partners was focused on sustainability as well. And
Okay.
so that was just translating, what we were doing on documentaries into a physical space.
Mhm.
That was not anymore directing for having like an audiovisual type of product. There was like
Yeah.
translating it into a physical space that people could interact with.
And if we talk about your first location, so Apocapoc, how did you tackle sustainability there? How did you start? And what did you start with, maybe?
Like mainly like really transforming the building in an efficient building. So there would be
Yeah.
namely, that's a bit technical, right? But namely working on insulation by using a cork, like to insulate
Yeah.
and have a good temperature average, using only non-toxic ecological products for and renewable products for the higher volumes, to be able to build, with products that were actually renewable and non-toxic for the users and the environment. And that would have been as well harvesting the rainwater. So we had like a space to harvest rainwater, restoring biodiversity by installing wicking beds and in general fruit trees on the outdoor space. And then implementing, of course, the usual, which would be only choosing equipment that would be, like A plus in terms of like energy efficiency, only making our furniture by harvesting in the street, like things that were thrown away, and customizing everything. And if we had to buy things, we would just buy secondhand. We never buy,
Yeah.
new things. So that's the main, things that has been done in the building itself, to just prepare the environment to have a common culture that was reflected into the physicality of the space as well.
Yeah, and I remember you also, because we went to Apocapoc, I think in 2015, and I remember you also had a garden on the roof, where you were growing vegetables, you were cooking with those vegetables in the kitchen. It was, I mean, yeah, when we were there, everything already felt very. That's why I said at the beginning of our talk, like you were already so advanced in your sustainability effort compared to the rest of the things we've seen. So, you just explained at the beginning that from Apocapoc, which you guys still have, right? Like you still operate Apocapoc.
No, Apocapoc has been sold.
Okay,
Like
so now you moved fully into
in-
Nest City Lab.
yeah. Like we realized that handling two physical spaces at the same time for the type of project we have was too heavy because you need a lot of physical presence to make sure that the
Mm,
culture that you're trying to generate is actually happening. And being on two sites at the same time would have taken the project in another direction, which would have been
yeah,
more management than actually, like a seedling for change, right? So we thought it was too much for us. We didn't want to have like a team that was too big as well, because then
yeah.
we had too much of like managing and not so much of interacting with the space, the physical space, the members, the users, the neighbors, and everything. So we really, I would say, we really put a priority on the presence and on the presence of one site. And it seems that even though we were having those two projects in Barcelona, just the fact that we had to, like walk, 20 minutes to be able to go to the other thing was already something, in terms
Yeah.
of dealing with the physical space.
And the image people see is Nest City Lab. So it's the new space, if I can call it this way. Can you talk to us about the history of the building you took over? So what was it before? And what was the, let's say, construction process looking like when you built that space?
Sure. So we basically had the same DNA as the first project, right? So our point was like to try really to think of the space as an abundant space where you didn't need to actually redo things or buy things, that everything was already available. It just needed to be adapted to the new use of the space. So in the first case with Apocapoc Born, there was like an old factory. In that case, there was also an old factory, but like a metal factory, and that belongs to the industrial, capital of the city. And the neighborhood is like at 22. So it's like the innovative neighborhood of Barcelona, where you used to have all the industrial capital of Barcelona. And so that was really important for us. We were into the same strategy in terms of buying the space, not having to depend on the fluctuation of the market. And so when we bought the space to the previous owner and that we explained our project, he wouldn't believe us really. And we actually told him that we would conserve, everything that was, like useful and still functioning. And then that we would just be able to build within the building modules, like the wooden modules that you actually see on the picture, in a way that if we're going away and that the space need transformation, it could all disappear and be reused somewhere else. So that was really important for us to respect the integrity of the building as it was. It was actually built by the previous owner and his dad, and there were plenty of
Mm,
structural elements, like metal pieces and everything that are still here, still in use, and everything that we couldn't use right away. We just decided to rent a space to be able, like a warehouse, to be able to generate our own, recycling spot. So we took all the material and just made an inventory of that material. And each time we needed to build something within the space, we would go and just grab whatever material was available into that recycling spot. And so just to give the example, when the owner comes back and saw the previous owner came back and saw the building, he was kind of amazed that we respected what we said that we would respect. So the integrity of the building and all the industrial elements that were also built by his father and himself were still here and could still appreciate, like his history and the memories he had within the building. And so that's one important aspect of the sustainability for us, is like sustainability is just based as well on where we are coming from. So sometimes you're tempted just to start from scratch everything, so demolish everything and then rebuild, in a way which would be more efficient. We think that this is not the most efficient way to approach things on plenty of aspects, because you kind of break the relationship with your past, when really it's important to keep the relationship with your past and know where you're coming from, to appreciate what was done well, and adaptation. And then it's not the most efficient way either on in terms of like resources, because there's plenty of resources when you arrive somewhere, and the idea is like to be able to detect and observe those resources and be able to use them, instead of having to go and just buy more, or excavate more, or just take more from the natural environment. So that was one important aspect. I mean, the trigger, the kind of like stepping stones for us in terms of making sure that like the historical aspect of the building was respected, and making the most of everything that we had around. And so that would be for the like more of
Cool.
like the construction aspect of it. But then there was like in the DNA the fact that we respected three-step process, which would be the first one would be to arrive in the location and just make sure that we protect or regenerate, if it's necessary, the vitality of the ecosystem. So the first thing we did after dismantling and generating the recycling spot was to take off all the pavement that was not necessary for us, and just be in touch with the soil of Barcelona, to make sure that we could plant here, and that all the like underground biodiversity could happen, because we're actually in contact with the rest of the territory with Barcelona. So just to give like a simple image, like a worm from outside our space could actually be able to come and travel through the soil and arrive in our space as well.
Wow. Okay.
So yes, there was a restoring the biodiversity, like the ecosystem, by generating that space for life, and that's actually the main like the core thing of the space is about being around that edible forest that we have, and just having to go through it at least twice a day when you come in and when you come out, and in this way reconnecting to the natural cycles. So there, yeah, that was one of the main steps.
And can you also talk to us about, because sustainability, it's and I think you started to touch base on that when you were explaining why you shifted the focus on only one location. So Nesty Lab is bigger, and you said, okay, we didn't want to have to run two spaces, two teams, etc. Can you talk to us about how you approach sustainability in the daily operation of the space?
Sure. Yeah, so there's that would lead us to so the first step is really protecting and regenerating, and that's in the daily action of the space, right? Make things
Yeah.
grow, we see things, right? Like so things come. I mean, more natural elements just appear every day, and we're just kind of like a nest for biodiversity as well. We have birds that have been with us for the past 5 years that actually enter the space, nest, have their babies, and then go. So that's something that we do on an everyday basis, is caring for the life, the alive ecosystem on the most primary aspect with the plants and the trees, but also on any other beings that actually enter the space. And then there's like the second aspect of it in terms of dealing with the sustainability. It's just deciding that we're going to adopt or create or just be copycats in terms of what are the best practices on a daily basis in terms of habits, right? Like, so we want to be able to be a community of practice that change their daily habits, because they have the environment to do it on a daily basis, and they have like an invitation to do it on a daily basis. So, like, to give an example, which is very humble. It's not something big. It's like, for instance, we still see like a lot of people using plastic bottles to drink some water, because the Barcelona from water doesn't have the best taste. And so when you see that practice, it's actually quite damaging for the environment, damaging for the health of the person actually using the plastic bottle and everything. So we just decided again to put plenty of filtered water points, so people could actually the reusable water, just fill in their reusable bottle, and make sure they were happy, so satisfied in terms of needs, of having a good, nice, tasting water, and at the same time not having a negative impact on their environment by generating more waste, more plastic, more transportation, more CO2 emissions and everything. So that's just one simple example. that applies for everything that we do. So in every action and every needs that we need to cater, in terms of being human and having many needs, like we think of the question, how can we do it in a way which is actually sustainable? What are the solutions available? And if no solutions are available, then we need to create one. And how do we come up with solutions, creative solutions for that? So that's true for the
And
water, that's true for the food, like the food that we produce here, that we eat, that we prepare, which is plant-based and organic and local and seasonal. So that's a big switch. Most of the users and the members wouldn't have access to that in their private life, and it's always hard to take that step of changing your diet. If it's made available for you on a daily basis, then it's not that hard anymore. You learn a lot by
yeah,
just eating and seeing the recipes and seeing the diversity of the options and everything.
it's actually a great bridge to my next question, because I know that you know so much about, sustainability and everything related to the environment, but how do you pass on your knowledge to your team and your community? Do you pass it on in any way?
Yeah, like we have like a way of passing on the knowledge, which would be touching the three way of connecting to the beings. So we're saying we have like the mental centers, like the instinctive centers, which is more the go-to action, and then the emotional center. So our way of passing on the knowledge is like through all those centers. Like it's not just on giving information, factual facts and figure information. It's about feeling the space, seeing the cycles, reconnecting with the natural cycles, seeing the sky on a daily basis, hearing and even seeing the rain on a daily basis. And this is just sensorial. We don't have to say, hey, look, you're connected to the nature. It's just sensorial. Then the go-to action, the more instinctive thing is like change your practice, change your habit, and you can do it. And that's like an action that you're going to have to do. And we invite for those actions. And of course, then you have more the mental center that we touch by sharing all the information we have, like the tips we can have. And that happens on a very bottom-up way, like anyone who has more information shares it. There's no experts in the space. It's like everyone is an expert at its own level of specialties, and this is being shared as a community of practice. So we really don't want to have like a top-down type of approach in terms of disseminating, the culture or like the knowledge. It's really about making the use of all that collective intelligence that we have and making sure that infusing that spirit and infusing those practices of sharing, then everyone can be, can be on board and can be touched by that culture that we're trying to create in the space.
And you guys even received a certification for your work and for the efforts that you put into it, which is called LEED. Why was it important for you to get such a certification?
So like the everything is very new in sustainability for in some way, like in terms of the building, and it's very new as well for most of the people that are around us. The mainstream culture is pretty still unsustainable. Of course, you have some niche of sustainability groups or clusters and everything, but this is not mainstream. And we thought that if we wanted to be able to transmit and transfer our knowledge, we needed to collaborate with organizations that also do the transfer of knowledge, and collaborating with NEED and the lead organization and having that certification was like a tactic for us to say when we are just sharing the information on how we want to do things in the space, but that you're in front of a team that either doesn't have the knowledge or have like cognitive dissonance and doesn't believe in what you're saying in terms of how to do the things, having an external organization that actually help you with those points and actually help you in showing why it is important, and they have like a point system, is really motivating for the people participating in the project. They can understand that it's not just us saying that it is important to do things this way. There are plenty of other organizations actually saying that, and that have like methodology to help you reach reach the sustainability goals. So that was really really important on a tactical point of view for us to have that support. And then there's the other thing is. In terms of communication, we don't do much communication in general because we want things to grow organically. But we also know that it's important at certain level, at certain scale, to actually have an official organization certifying what you're doing in the space, not to attract discredit from the people, using the space, or, like in the city or in the territory, and not be, not be associated with some type of greenwashing in what we do. So we knew that like the certification can help with consolidating your authority as a project actually respecting, all the different points of sustainability.
And when we are at your level of effort, understanding, recognition of the work, how do we improve? How do we keep on improving?
Yeah, there's so many things to improve. Yeah.
Okay.
No, really, we're talking about like that crazy human factor, right? And so the people using the space are still human, and as human, it's so easy to forget about the good habits and go back to, like the more pleasant, habits, or like instant
Yeah.
gratification type of habits. So this is a never-ending thing. Like even if at some point you can touch, how beneficial it is to behave and to have a certain type of habits, if you don't keep practicing them, then like the brain connections would take you back to the instant gratification type of habits, right? So there's so many ways to keep improving into practicing, and getting to another level of maintaining a sustainable approach in your habits. So that's a never-ending story, right? Because we have like people coming in, people coming out, and that has impact and an influence on the ecosystem, obviously. So some stuff that we thought were a win, no, we always have to put it back. Sorry. Okay. We always have to put it back into the dynamic, because some people could come with less knowledge, and so we have to
Yeah.
go back to things that we previously covered, right? Okay, I'm okay.
No worries. Are you okay? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And one of the things, because to wrap up the conversation with you now, I know that we have quite a few co-working operators watching us now, and as I was explaining at the beginning of our chat with you, everyone is really thinking, how do I start, and how do I move forward? So what would be your number one piece of advice for people watching us now who are thinking about their sustainable strategy or their efforts into becoming more sustainable?
Yeah, I would say the name of our company, Apocapoc, says it all, right? It's like baby steps. And so, like being able to have the perspective and to see things in the long run. And so to just plan, strategize, and organize for it. But then being patient with yourself and being patient in the process by taking a step by step approach, and a non judgmental type of approach as well. Is trying to best all the time, not judging whoever is not doing the best, because this is a hard thing. The mainstream culture obviously is just running against, that type of initiatives. So it's always hard to be like the smaller, like fish into the big ocean, because you
Yeah.
have to fight a lot more to be able to do the things. So I would say like the baby step thing and the step-by-step approach is important. And then always have that powerful question of how can I do it a way which will, impact positively on whole levels, right? That would impact positively in terms of like financial sustainability. That would impact positively in terms of generating, a community which is healthy, on different aspects. I'm not just talking about like, body health, and not only emotional health. I would say healthy would be as well to be kind to each other, generous to each other, and not being non judgmental to each other and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you have that positive impact, which is about the environment and the system we live in? And so by putting that question for, like at the beginning of anything that you want to start or any action that you're going to take, oh, we need new furniture, and so where's my furniture going to come from? Do I have an option which is not to go to IKEA, buy it and go and do it fast? Can I find some other ways that will be, like impacting more positively? And so this is kind of like a mental gymnastics to always come back to that question: how can I do it in a way that will, like positively impact the ecosystem I live in or I'm trying to generate and create?
Val, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm adding your website and also your social. So anyone going in Barcelona or keen to connect with you, please do so and visit Nest City Lab. Definitely a must seen. And yeah, it was really, really nice to have you with us today. So thanks for sharing so openly everything, your whole journey, because I know it's very extensive. Let me just yeah, no, that's all good. I was just wondering if it's all good. So thank you so much, and we speak again soon then.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Pauline. You're doing an amazing work. I love what you're doing with the team.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you very much, Val. Have a beautiful day in
Bye.
Barcelona.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.